it's funny because Leon Draisaitl scored the overtime winner, but the Oilers really got to that OT thanks to Evan Bouchard. He has become one of the most clutch players in the National Hockey League. He faces a lot of criticism for his defensive play. Does his offense, in your opinion, Marty, more than make up for it?
Absolutely, Jay. But when you look at the best offensive defensemen in the history of the National Hockey League, you never talk about the mistakes they've made defensively. You talk about how they change games with their production, with their clutch, goal scoring or clutch assist in big games. And the Oilers were done. Like, they were down 3-1. And then they're down 3-2. And that play on Quinton Byfield saves the day. Like, he keeps the play alive and then he scores to make it 3-3. But without Evan Bouchard in the last two games, because he also scored 2 goals in Game 3. So without him, the Oilers would probably be golfing this week, right? Because you're thinking, okay, he's made some mistakes defensively, but it's all about the offense. And he doesn't have Matthias Ekholm alongside with him to help him defensively. So he's got to bring even more offense to make up for maybe what they're lacking defensively. And in the last 2 games, he's been that spectacular. And obviously the 2 goals in Game 4 were so clutch for the Edmonton Oilers. You have McDavid, you have Draisaitl, you have other players that can come through, but Evan Bouchard and being able to get those 2 goals and to keep in at the blue line to save the play, to make sure you can tie it up in the last 30 seconds was huge. So he's been so big in the last 2 games.
In fact, Edmonton, they've showed no signs of quitting this series, Marty, but boy, did they ever let themselves get behind. I mean, they get behind in Game 1. The Oilers make almost a miraculous comeback there. They come back in Games 3 and 4. I guess my question for you is, does this Oilers team maybe need to find a way to make it a little easier on themselves?
Well, they sure do. But now that you've played the way you want to, they dominated the third period, dominated the overtime. Now you can go back and watch the video and say, this is how we need to play. And it wasn't just Draisaitl and McDavid. Evander Kane had a big part in this. Corey Perry had a big part of this. Hyman had a great chance in overtime. You're looking at everything that the Oilers were able to do in the last 20 minutes and the overtime is exactly the blueprint of how they got to play. So now they have that example. It's fresh in their memory, and they can go back to it for the last, 3 games of this series if it was ever to go to 7 games. But the puck possession was huge. The LA Kings, all they did in the third period and overtime is they got tired of defending. They got to the red line, they dumped it in, and then they had to defend again and again and again. That's what you have to do. Puck possession, keep it away from the Kings, and then your offense can take over, which they did in the third and overtime.
All right, Marty, that series now tied at 2 apiece. Game 5 will be Tuesday in Los Angeles. Let's look to the game on Sunday between the Jets and Blues. It did not go well for Winnipeg. They lose 5-1, and once again, Connor Hellebuyck is pulled. He has allowed 11 goals on 43 shots in Games 3 and 4. He had one game this series, really, Marty, where he's looked like a Vezina Trophy candidate. Considering his playoff history, are you at all concerned about Connor Hellebuyck's ability to bounce back at this point?
I'm very concerned about his ability to bounce back because if he had that in him, if he had that confidence to say, I'm going to bounce back, he would have done it in Game 4. He got pulled in Game 3. Game 3 wasn't a good game. Well, show me that you can bounce back. He didn't do that in Game 4. He looked very average, and to me, that is a problem. Also, St. Louis is attacking Connor Hellebuyck's weaknesses. Look, when you play in the playoffs, you get to see the same goalie over and over again. And after the first 2 games, St. Louis hadn't figured out Hellebuyck that much. But in Game 3 and 4, they figured him out. Number 1, you can't go straight on at Hellebuyck. He's so good when he's dialed into the shooter, so you have to go around him. Look for deflections. Look for guys on the back door. The Blues have done that. And when they attack Hellebuyck off the rush, he's standing still. He doesn't have any backward movement. Don't try to beat him, going through him, go around him. St. Louis has really gone to study him, and now it's come through in Game 3 and 4. So I'm very concerned about his ability to bounce back, yes.
This series now heads back to Winnipeg, tied at 2 games apiece. Marty, how much trouble are the President's Trophy winners in at this point?
They're in a lot of trouble because the St. Louis Blues have been the hottest team in the National Hockey League since the Four Nations face-off. And Jordan Binnington, he plays big in big games. Okay, listen to this, Jay. In Game 5, 6, and 7 of a playoff series, Jordan Binnington is 10-2. And the 5 times in his career that he's been tied after 4 games 2-2, well, he's won all 5 of those series. That is where Jordan Binnington makes his money. That is why He's been that good. That's why Team Canada had him as a starter at the Four Nations faceoff. So, yeah, the Jets are in trouble because Jordan Binnington now will ramp it up and could definitely go ahead and steal that series.
Game 5 will be Wednesday in Winnipeg. The whiteout will have to show up big time to help out the Jets in that one. Marty, thanks for joining us this morning on the show.